All right, so here we are. I'm of Energy, and today is actually about wealth, and really, it's about moving energy. So I started yesterday in just catching up on the wealth module. It's been a pretty busy week for me, and I've really found that module. I'm only up to finish the first disc, the first session, first part of it, part one. It's pretty profound. It is pretty profound. Like some of the things that are spoken there is it's really starting to go towards the FTW or OMG intensive lingo, if you like. So where to start? So in wealth, in OMG, I begin to speak about really what wealth really is, and we talk about most people associate wealth with money or with having things. Personally, I associate wealth with a sense of possibilities. And I'm going to explain that to you, and you'll start to grasp what I'm saying to you as we go along. In OMG, we reveal that it's not money that you run out of; it's space, or in Italy we call it, or in Italian we call it spasio, right? Spasio. So it's not money you run out of; it's spasio. So it's a space, but really at the OMG level, that really can land. Right, and it's an introduction to this topic of wealth, and it's the first thing that you must realize. It's actually not about the money. So it's not about attaining things. It's not about keeping money. It really has got to do with space. So I want to explore further at a deeper conversation in relation to space and really kind of explore, well, what is space? And when we say space, I mean, you can say, well, space is the unknown, right? Yeah. But then what are we referring to when we say your space? You don't have enough space, because the unknown, right, is infinite possibilities, is full space. So what does it mean when you say, I don't have enough space? Or what am I referring to when I'm saying you don't run out of money, you run out of space? How can you run out of space if that's all there is? All right. So there's a difference between the space that we talk about, which is the unknown, versus your space, which sometimes gets very restricted, right? So in this session today, we're taking the conversation to a much deeper place, and to a place of practical sense or practical understanding, because in OMG, it's more about just understanding that, it's not about money. And there's a lot of pondering and having a deeper experience of realizing it's not about the money, and maybe through people's stories, through attaining money or losing money or having money or not having money, and all the different experiences around wealth of things and owning things and whatever. Through that, you may start to identify with that statement. It's not about the money. Yet, I will remind you, it's just a simple point that I've spoken about in many of the OMGs, that, there was a time in my life where I didn't want to make it about the money, and I was doing the WTFs, or the Quest for Truth, as it was known back then, for free, because I wanted to get this work out to the people and not restrict them based on their financial situations, and I didn't want to make it about the money. So I would do it for free, or people would pay what they felt, etc., etc. Until one day a friend of mine, Chris Barkway, which I've spoken about in the past, He's a golf pro, and he says to me, Amir, aren't you making it about the money? And I said, no, I'm not about the money. Like I get sickened by those people who make it about the money, in my judgment, right, back then. He goes, but you trying not to make it about the money, isn't that making it about the money? Like your attention is not about making the money, and so therefore your attention's on the money. I mean, he didn't say those exact words. His simple statement was, aren't you making it about the money by trying not to make it about the money? And it just landed for me. And I realized, yeah, it's exactly what I was doing. I'm placing my attention on not making it about the money, which is actually placing my attention on the money, right? So whether that's attaining the money or not making it about the money, my attention's still on the money. So I will just kind of highlight that simple point here, because as I say, it's not about the money. When you get to a point, and I guess I'm just revisiting the simple points before we move on. When I say it's not about the money, you're not thinking about the money. It doesn't mean you don't use your money. It doesn't mean you still play with the money. Like money is part of our experience, just like food is. Right? It doesn't, it's just not, like you could say a statement like, eat to live, don't live to eat, right? Ponder on that, eat to live, don't live to eat. Did I say that right? Yeah. So that's a different mindset. So when I say it's not about the money, it's like the importance of money, whether you have it or not, doesn't determine your decisions, right? So your drive is not to attain money, but doesn't mean money won't be attained or be passing through your hands. Do you understand? So at the egoic level, at the first kindergarten level, when I first started, right? And you get what I'm trying to say, I think, right? So when I say it's not about the money, you don't have thoughts about the needing of money or acquiring of money. I mean, you may have a thought that this requires to be paid, but you're not then placing your attention and taking action or moving based on attaining that money. Does that make sense? So as I'm saying this, I guess I'm realizing that it's probably really important to identify what it means when we say it's not about money. So I'm kind of going to stop for a sec, because I'm just actually realizing that's probably, I was going to start somewhere else, but I'm realizing that it's probably really just make sure that we are all at a place where we understand what it means when you say it's not about the money. In prior OMGs or even future OMG sessions, as we go along through the OMG journey together, you'll hear me talk a lot about, well, I don't know, like especially at the very end of the OMG, I think in the bonuses modules that we provide to people in OMG, bonus module 13, 14, 15, which is, imagination, I am, and purity, right? In a lot of that, I start saying to people, well, they go, how do you do this? And I go, I don't know. I just don't think about it. It just happens. But you see, that can be so woo-woo. It can seem so woo-woo. But, that's what I'm explaining here when I'm saying it's not about the money. It's like, well, how does the money show up? I'm just like, well, that's not where my attention is at. My attention is, well, I needed to buy a new car. So therefore, what has to happen, whether that's money, whether that's a movement of energy or movement of form, will take place for my new car. Do you know? So the attention is not, well, I need this much money. Well, sure, when I go buy a car, they'll say it costs, let's say, $125,000. Okay, well, that's well, then you go, well, that's about the money. It's like, no, that's just the story. It's like, well, in the story, you're required to pay $125,000. I don't then go and place my attention on whether I have $125,000, whether it's a good idea or not a good idea. I go based on, that's the car I want, then I just decide to get it. So that's what I mean by, just write your questions down just so I can keep my flow, if that's all right, guys. I'm going to open up for questions at the end. Write it down. So that's where, you know, that's what it, for me anyway, that's what it means when I say it's not about the money. I'm running a business, right? So in this business, right, my drive is not to make money, right? I have other drives, right? But it doesn't mean money doesn't come into my hands, right? You may think to yourself, well, if your drive's not about making money, then if someone wanted to do your program and they didn't have the money, why don't you just let them do it, right? That again is placing your attention on the money. You're like for me, it's about then going, well, this person. I mean, in a nutshell, I just do whatever I feel. Like if I felt to, I will. If I don't feel to, I won't. I mean, that's to be, you know, complete honest. Yeah, I don't know how to better to explain that at this stage. Maybe I'll address it again. I might ponder on that because that's not something I've pondered on. What I ponder on is what I'm about to share with you. But it's a good point. Let's start there. And I would like to give you a more clearer answer with greater reference points so it can land for you. So I'm going to ponder on that and I'm going to get you to ponder on it. So that's our first pondering question. What does it mean when you say it's not about the money? So you can write that down. All right, that's our first question. I'll send all these to you after anyway. But you know, I had a crack just then to explain to you what it means when I say it's not about the money. The closest thing I can give to you at this point, without going into deeper pondering and realization about it, is that for me, it's not about the money. So that means my attention is not on the money. Sure, the money is part of the story. This money is required to be paid, but my attention is not, you know, you have a mortgage, for example. My attention is not making the money to pay the mortgage. My attention is I'm living in this house and it requires payment. Like, so therefore I'm not thinking about the money. I don't know how else to better explain that, but and the only reference point that's coming to me right now, and there's nothing else, is the reference point that I've given you many times, or will continue to give you many times throughout OMG, which is, I just don't think about it. Like, I don't think about it. It's just, I put my attention there. That's what I decide to do. And why wouldn't it happen? Like, that's the experience. Now, don't get me wrong. And we're going to talk about this today. There will be things in my life that will be outside of my comfort zone or outside of my space that I have for it, where I'll be like, you know, I'll be like, I would have to go expand space for, right? Well, notice that I would think about it, right? But just the everyday living, just living, you know, the life that I'm living at the moment, it doesn't require thinking. But I'm going to talk to you about, but where does it require thinking? Where do you notice yourself that thoughts come into play, right? So let's just start with that. Okay, it's a good topic for you to ponder on. I will ponder on as well and see if I can give you some more reference. But I'm not satisfied with my answer. I want to, you know, I want to give you more landing points, more reference points for you to go, yeah, like that's, you know, that's what it's about. Because it's easy for me to say it's not about the money, and then someone just goes, oh, okay, so don't think about the money, you know. But it's not that you're not thinking about the money. Like, if you may be doing your accounts for the month. So some people, when I say it's not about money, they close or take away their attention from the money and they disregard it. That's not what I'm saying. So that's why I'm not happy with my answer. I want to keep going deeper on this, but I'll get you to ponder on it as well. It's not disregarding it. It's acknowledging it for what it is, but your attention doesn't stay with it. It's not about the money. Energy is always moving. I move energy. Energy is always moving, right? Money is always moving. It's not there to go to one place. You know, I will tell you one thing. And I want to read it for you word for word. All right. This will support you in your pondering of It's not about the money. And I want to read you word for word because I wrote this. I did most of my pondering for this. In fact, 80% of it came to me this morning. So this is fresh, and I just wrote it this morning. And I just think it's okay. Here it is. All right. I'm going to read it word for word for what I actually wrote. It's important for me to do that. Again, I'll share you my notes later at the end of the session or at the end of session 2. You're not trying to make or accumulate money. You're moving it to where it's required to go. That's it. So like for me, like when it's not about the money, I'm not trying to make money. I'm not trying to acquire money or keep money. All I'm doing is moving it to where it's required to go. It's not mine. Like, if I say the money's mine, then I become a drop, right? It's not mine. It's part of me. It's energy. And again, I don't want to seem too woo-woo, but it's just, and okay, if I don't want to get you lost into woo-woo, you go, oh, money's just me. I mean, it's just energy, right? And let's just place our attention on the money, okay? Just so we're focused. Well, to me, right, the money comes to me because it's going somewhere. I don't need it to build it as my identity. If I decide that I want to buy a car or start a business, then I decide to do that. It's got nothing to do with the money. So therefore, I don't need the money. And this also means, I might have $500,000 sitting in the bank account, $5,000 sitting in the bank account, whatever, right? Whatever you relate to, right? It doesn't mean, well, therefore I'm thinking to myself, where's it got to go? If it's not going anywhere, it just sits there. And therefore I might be smart and, get a good interest rate or something. Okay. No worries. Jara, you've unmuted yourself. I'll mute you again. Just make sure you don't unmute yourself, guys. So to me, that statement means a lot. Like that's what it feels like. That's what I can say when I know my attention is not on the money. All right. So I'll say that to you one more time. Okay. You're not trying to make or accumulate money. You're moving it. You're simply moving it where it's required to go. And it's required to go somewhere because something's knocking at your door, an invoice, this bill, wages. It's required to go there. And I want to encourage it to go there. It's a different feeling. It's come in and I want to encourage it. Like tomorrow I do wages for my company, which we do at least with the big ones once a month. And it's like thousands of dollars got to go to people and different people in my team. That's an exciting time for me. I'm inspired by that. I don't want to keep it, right? I don't need to keep it because it doesn't make me more valuable or less valuable. It doesn't make me feel more secure or less secure. Don't get me wrong. There is a nice feeling or sensation when you've got it depends what your reference point is. Some of you might be spending $100,000 a month because that's what your big lifestyle is. Some the others might be, $2,000 a month. So let's say your lifestyle, you spend $2,000 a month, right? I'm just giving you a small one, right? If you had $10,000 sitting in your bank account, all right, there is a comfort with that, but don't get too comfortable with that as well, because then what you start to do is start to rely on that sense of security, right? When you don't need that comfort, then it's simple for money to be just sitting in your account. It's normal. Remember, in throughout OMG, I talk about that there's been in times in my life where, especially when I first started this journey, where I was always like trying to make ends meet, right? And a lot of times I didn't make ends meet. There was this huge process for me, and it created a process, right? Now remember, your growth and expansion and what you're going to get from that process is happening when the process is taking place. A lot of the times your mind is trying to get this process to finish so you don't have to feel what you're feeling. That's fine. But remember, the process will be finished when you've got what you need to get from that. Once the process is finished, you're no longer going to grow or expand any further from it. Okay, so understand and appreciate when there is this process taking place. So in the beginning, there's this process for me where I couldn't even make ends meet. I'm over here. I couldn't even, I was treading water. I couldn't even, I kept going under. But, I've talked about this before. As I started to expand my space and become more and more aware, I started to get to a point where, I just treading water now, and I started to get higher and higher. And at this level, right, I started to notice that things would every time something was due, and I might get a late notice or reminder notice, but it would get paid, and I started to notice this trend, right? And what was taking place is my space was becoming bigger and bigger. So I had more and more awareness. Keyword, awareness. I'm going to talk about this in a second. Then I started to get to a point where I started to notice that the money that was required was already there. It was sitting there. Do you understand? And at this point, it can be also very dangerous because you start to make decisions based on the money that's in your account rather than based on what you feel. Because you start, and this is what happens at the very first time. Remember I say to you, it's like you're learning to walk again in the second part of OMG, in the external. So what happens is as your money starts to rise, as wealth starts to increase, it starts to be easy for you to go, well, I'm going to do this because I can. But the because I can is not because you feel to. The because I can is because it's there in form. It's like, well, the money's there, I can do it. So just be aware of that, okay? I will say one point. I just want to point one point because everyone is in a different place. Just understand that when you're experiencing, especially the internal process, it seems like the money always just comes in, right? It's always just coming in, but you're never going up here where the money is already there, right? You don't know where it's going to come, but it just comes in, right? Just understand that it's important, like when you're having that internal process, that allows you to be completely connected to your process. As soon as you rise up, you start to disconnect from that process, okay? As soon as there's excess money, right, you have other things to think about. Your attention goes elsewhere. So therefore, in my experience, no excess money came through my internal process. That supported me to be in my process rather than being distracted with what am I going to do with my money. Does that make sense? So I've gone way back here just to revisit before I even share what I need to share. All right. It's because I'm sensing that whether it's you or other people who are going to be listening to this in the future, people are going to be in different places, right? Personally, I think if your money is just arriving on you're having an internal process. Okay. And I know that, you may think, well, I'm still having an internal process. Well, process that. What can I say? Right? And just remember, the moment your process is finished, your growth, your expansion is finished. So whatever your process came to give you or is there to reveal to you, it's done. It's not going to give you any more once it's finished. So get what you need to get from your process. Right? So I'm just saying that because I know that even though you're listening to this and it's more advanced, that there will be parts of your life and different areas of life, or even maybe all of your life, you're still having an internal process about. Well, so suck it up. I did an internal process for over 3 years, right? But I didn't have the support that you guys have. So I just kind of wanted to point that out. Now, let's get into the content that I want to deliver to you. So I was saying to you before that, to me, wealth is possibilities, okay? In your mindset, you measure wealth by what you have, right? So in other words, you begin to measure it by what's formed. For me, true wealth is a balance of the formless and the forming. Right? So it's like when you say, oh, I have a wealth of possibilities. What's a word we use in the English word? Yeah, wealth of possibilities. Anyone heard that? Anyone say that before? I have a wealth of possibilities. Yeah. Okay. So what is it? What does it mean to have a wealth of possibilities? And you guys know when I use the word possibilities, possibilities means you can see things being revealed to you, but there's also things that are not revealed to you, right? Or, I talk about this in the very early stages in the WTF. Possibilities or infinite possibilities is something is possible, but it's also possible for you to fail. I had a quote that I posted up today on Instagram. I might read it to you. Here it is, my Instagram. So it was, you're a champion not because you won, because you played, because you love it so much that you're even willing to lose. Like, to me, possibilities is, yes, you have a willingness to win, you have a willingness to form, but you also have the willingness for it not to. You could succeed, you could fail, you could fall in love, you could be rejected. So again, remember what possibilities truly means. So a wealth of possibilities, and I can't believe I'm going to use this example, but this is how it came to me on the beach. So I'm going to give it to you exactly how it came to me. And you'll learn a little bit about what in my mind. But, I'm walking on the beach at Bondi Beach. It's nice, and I'm pondering about this wealth of possibilities and because I know it's a wealth of possibilities. And again, a wealth of possibilities is not just a form. And as I'm thinking this and I'm pondering, I see this very beautiful woman in a bikini. And I just got distracted for a second, my pondering, and I just looked at this woman in a bikini. I was like, wow, she's really beautiful, right? And then I realized that, and my pondering continued and went, well, wouldn't it be interesting if she was completely naked? Right? And I'm like, that's an interesting, this is the stuff that goes on in my head, right? That's an interesting observation, because if she was completely naked, it wouldn't be as exciting. Like, she had this bikini that was revealing parts, but was hiding parts. Do you understand? And okay, you might, come on, women, you can relate this to a guy, maybe Jamie's got his shirt off, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's, stay with me here for a sec. Okay. Stay with me for a sec. Wealth of possibilities is, I don't know, that's for me personally, and other guys might go, no, I want to see the whole thing naked, right? Whatever. But when you can see a part of something, but yet another part of it is hidden from you and you can't see it, it is not revealed. To me, that is wealth of possibilities, right? So, okay, take away the bikini, right? And bring this back to your normal reality. So in that bikini example, I just wanted to make that very clear. Like, to me, the bikini was hiding things, but at the same time was revealing things, right? And to me, that's what meant is wealth of possibilities, because if she took everything off, it's not that she wouldn't be beautiful, it's you wouldn't have the same, for me anyway, it might be my personal thing. It's like, I can see the whole thing now. It's still beautiful, it's still nice, right? But you lose something about it, right? And I can't explain. Jamie, you know what you lose?
The mystery.
The mystery. The unknown. The unknown. Thank you. I knew I was looking for a word there. I was struggling because, my attention's gone on this bikini, right? The mystery or the unknown. All right. So with the wealth of possibilities, yes, there is the known, and yes, there is the unknown. So when you're dealing with your wealth of possibilities, there is things that are forming, and there is things, well, let's start again. There's things that are unformed, and it's just a feeling, right? Then there's things that you can see that is forming. And I'll relate this to you in many, in different OMGs. I can't remember which OMG it is, but I talk about when sometimes people lose what's being formed in manifestation because they put their attention on the forming and they go, oh my God, it's happening. It's happening. It's done. It's done. And it's not fucking done. It's done once it is formed. All right. You don't put your attention on one part. You have an awareness of the whole. So you have a feeling that begins to form. Your attention is not just on the form. And then when it forms, it forms, right? The first thing I can say to you about wealth is all of that, right? And no matter how infinite you are or how expansive you are and you're experiencing your infinite possibilities, remember the bikini example. You're never going to forget it. All right? Maybe you need to come up with your own example. There's still going to be some things that will be hidden, that will be a mystery, that you don't know what's going to happen by design. You don't want it to know the whole thing. You don't know how you don't want to know how it's going to happen. There's a part of you that has excitement around the mystery, about the unknown. As much as there's a little voice in your head goes, no, I just want to know it's going to happen. I just want to know it's going to. It doesn't work like that. That's how I live. I live the bikini theory. Okay? I don't need to take the whole bikini off. All right? I know you feel tempted to, and you go, Abe, you think I just want to take the bikini off, right? I know you're tempted to, but don't. Don't try to, right? You only be, because there is got to stay that unknown. So what I'm trying to say there for you is because what people try to do in building wealth is to attain, and they think by attaining, it means you've removed the mystery and you have got the form. So then you reveal the next mystery and you have the form, and they're looking to attain the form, and the form is building the sense of who they are or their sense of security rather than the mystery, rather than the mixture of the known and the unknown. Because remember, this is about bringing the internal and the external world together to be one of the same. It's about using and playing with the mystery, or I keep using the word mystery now, using and playing with the known and the unknown, using and playing with the form and the formless. It's the internal and the external world becoming one of the same. So we're not talking about, or if you like, it's, when I talk about in the WTF experience, it's about finding certainty in the uncertain. Okay? You're still in the uncertain, right? But you're finding certainty in that. To me, that's what wealth of possibilities means. Okay? A wealth of possibilities. So I want you to, again, just consider that. You might find other reference point to that, but that's what a wealth of possibilities is for me. Okay? So I want to get to what we're here to talk about, which is ultimately what we're here to talk about is space, right? But I want to take the conversation deeper. This point that I heard myself saying in OMG on disc 1, I was like blown away. I was like, did I say that? That's phenomenal. And I think one of the guys, I think it was Sarah, was transcribing it. So she kind of pointed it out about the fish. You heard me talk about the fish in video 1? Like, I was like, that's good shit, right? And this is your pondering. I want you to ponder on this statement. This is what I said in there. The fish is swimming in the ocean, not knowing that it is the ocean that the fish is swimming in. I mean, you go and ponder on that theory or that statement and then tell me what wealth is. Because right there is what I'm trying to say, what I'm about to say in regards to space. Okay? I'll say it again. The fish is swimming in the ocean, not knowing that it is the ocean that the fish is swimming in. Are you serious? Did I say that back then? Like, imagine you're the fish and you're swimming in the nothingness, the emptiness, the formless. But this is actually true. Do you know that the fish that swims the ocean doesn't know that it's swimming in the ocean? Do you know that? That's actually true. Do you know the fish doesn't know? I've got fish sitting here next to me in my big pond on my right here. They don't know they're swimming in a pond. Do you know why? Because they don't know anything else besides the water. They don't know anything else besides the ocean. They don't know anything else besides the pond. The fish doesn't know it's swimming in the water. You don't know that you're swimming in an infinite sea of possibilities. You don't know that you are in energy. And not only do you not know that you are swimming in a sea of energy, I move energy, you don't know, well, maybe you do, but generally people don't know that you are that energy that you are swimming in. That's the whole fish analogy there. Love it. I mean, I've got to read it again. The fish is swimming in the ocean, not knowing that it is the ocean that it is swimming in. The fish is swimming in the ocean, not knowing that it is the ocean that the fish is swimming in. That's spasio. Yeah, mic drop, Jamie is saying. Right? To me, that's like the biggest mic drop moment in this whole. Like I'm like, what? Did I say that? Like, but I want you to ponder on that now, all right? Because I want you to ponder on that and how that relates to wealth. Okay, so that's your exercise, your homework, your pondering. The only other thing I wanted to add to what I've said, and I guess I'll revisit this in our next session as well, is don't measure, and I've said this many times, and I'm saying it, I've just said it already, but I've just put it in a sentence and I'm going to give it to you right now. Don't measure your possibilities that you have or not have by what's formed or forming. Okay? That's what I mean by you don't put your attention on your money. Don't measure your possibilities that you have or not by what's formed or forming. Use them just as a reference, or acknowledge them for the form or for the forming. So I'm not saying be in denial of them, you just acknowledge it. This is what's happening. I am buying a new car. I am buying a new business. I am now starting AZ again and building a coaching, it's going to say empire, but it's not, business, like movement right now, right? That's what's forming. I acknowledge that. It's not like I'm like, oh, I don't want to think about that. It's not that. I don't think about that that's what's happening. I mean, I am aware of that and I acknowledge that. This, what I'm saying to you, is for your pondering that I gave you first up. What does it mean when I say it's not about the money? I have awareness that this is forming, right? And even when and how it forms, I have an awareness it's formed, but then I don't go and place my attention on the formed, right? I just have an awareness. I have an awareness of the feeling I have, what I'm currently doing with my coaching business. I have an awareness of the feeling I have. I then have an awareness of the wealth of possibilities that I am sensing in my space. I have an awareness of the forming that's taking place. And some of the forming that's taking place right now is the mentors and getting them prepared, and the mentors who are currently working with me, some of you guys, right? I have an awareness of that forming, and I have awareness of some of the things that have formed, like, some of the awesome people that have started to work with me in the team, like Leah and, like Natalie, for example. right? Leah's brought a lot to the table. That's the formed, right? But I don't put my attention on the formed. If I put all my attention on the formed, I'm putting power in it. So then I'm saying the possibilities, the wealth of possibilities is happening because of this little drop. Oh, you fucked up there. See you later, gone. I don't put my attention on it. So therefore, I don't think about it. Now, there is, I know some of you thinking, going, yeah, but fuck, geez, you must be good not to be able to think about. The more space you have, right, the less you're required to think about it. The more you're just like, why wouldn't it happen? But that's what's happening already. What are you talking about? But Amir, how do you know it's going to? I don't know. What are you talking about? What are you so concerned about? That's already happening. But what if it doesn't happen? Well, it doesn't happen, but it's already happening. But it doesn't make any difference either, because you get what I'm saying? So that statement, point 6 in my notes, was actually for next session, but I just thought I'll share that with you right now because it relates to the first bit of the pondering I gave to you, which is, what does it mean to not make it about the money? What does it mean? I mean, and I know I feel you if you're thinking to yourself, but I am struggling to make ends meet. Like, how can it not be about them? I feel you, sister or brother. I've been there and I feel that. I know what you're saying, right? But I'm just saying to you, you know, you got to just trust this journey, trust the process and the people that are around you in this program, right? They will take you through this. I will take you through. There's a point where you just start to expand your awareness and shit just starts to happen. Now, some of you have already probably experienced that and you've had a moment of that. And then you thought to yourself, oh yeah, this shit's just starting to happen. The money's starting to flow in. I'm starting to, and some of you have never had this financial problem, but you've had it in different other areas of your life where, maybe it's through love. It doesn't have to be, it could be a wealth of love. It could be a wealth of fitness. I don't know. Right? But we're talking about money here, so let's keep talking about that. So you may have had experience where you've come out of that, and then you started going and putting your attention on the form that you believe is responsible for bringing you out of that. How soon and how quickly that floor disappears and gets you back down under. You know what I'm talking about? So I'm talking about my business. I'm giving you exactly what I'm doing, right? In my example, Leah was the formed. My attention doesn't go on Leah or pleasing Leah. Sure, I appreciate Leah. I appreciate the role she's playing with me. And I'm not just going, well, Leah's me. Like sometimes people say, well, they're just me, so I don't need to give it any credit. No, well, it's you. I love you. They say, sometimes you say, well, it's me anyway, right? So then you don't have to do anything about it, like, so you can be in denial of it. Well, yeah, if it's you, well, love and appreciate that part of you, right? So you still look after it. You still, blossom with it or nurture it, right? It's not like you become denial, but that's the form. But you don't then go, it's happening because of that. That's not true. How many times have you guys seen me do what I do when I've just walked away from the very thing that was supposedly giving me my wealth? I'm talking about my speaking. You guys have been around long enough. You've seen me. You've taken the steps in the journey, most of you, with me. Jamie, how long have you been with me? You've seen me fucking do it. And you think I didn't go, oh, well, if I stop speaking, the money will stop. I mean, yeah, the thought popped up, but then I was like, is that really what's... Yeah. And sure, the money did stop. But there are possibilities. It's wealth of possibilities. Nothing changed with my lifestyle. In fact, my lifestyle just continued to expand and improve even more because I just continued to follow my feeling, which is a hint there about what we're going to be talking about next week. So you might want to start pondering on that too. I'll just drop that in there. I'm telling you guys, I've been doing this for a while. I try to tell my younger brother sometimes some of this stuff. You know, some of you heard my brother at the retreat where he was making jokes about, you know, oh, well, my brother and my mum tried to teach me and da, da, da. Remember the sounds of the ocean versus the sounds of the trucks going on the highway where my brother lives. And my mum's like, it sounds like the ocean. My brother's like, it sounds like a truck. You get my point. Those who were at the retreat will remember that. It was hilarious. But yeah, you know, sometimes I like, you know, I feel like I'm talking to my brother when I'm talking to you guys. That's why I just said that. It's like, so your homework, your final bit of the homework, there's a little bit of pondering to go on here, right? Is we talk about so much about space, spasio, and we say you don't run out of space, you run out of money. Sorry, you don't run out of money, you run out of space, right? So how then do you expand your space? That's your real pondering. That's what I came to give to you. The other ponderings are just bonus ones. How do you expand your space? Okay, so in the next session, I'm going to talk more about, well, what is space? Because again, at the very beginning, I told you, right? The space that you have through your space that you relate to as your space is not the same. I mean, it is, right? But it's not at the same time. It's not the space of the unknown. Because the unknown that we know as infinite possibilities doesn't lack space. So how can you say, I've run out of space. I need to make more space. I need to take some space. How can you say those words then? So therefore, there is a difference in this human experience through this drop that is becoming, that is sensing and realizing that it is the whole ocean within the drop, as we talk about, as Rumi talks about, right? There is this awareness that there is your space and then there is the unknown, the infinite space. So therefore the question is, how do you expand your space? We've never spoken about it. I don't think we have anyway. It's always, in OMG, it's more referenced to space, which is true. But then now we want to take it further than OMG. Well, how do you expand your space? Well, first we need to become more aware, what is the difference between your space? Write that one down too. You might want to ponder on that, give you different reference points. What's the difference between your space and the infinite space or the unknown? So what's the difference between your space and the infinite or the unknown, right? And how do you expand your space? Now, remember, I will give you one hint here as well, or just highlight a point that, and I'm sure I talk about this in OMG. I'm going to just catch up on video 2 and 3. But remember, you're never expanding your space. So I know I'm using that word right now, but the truth is you're becoming, again, this is a clue. You're becoming aware of you're not expanding your space. You're becoming aware of your expandedness. Okay. So what's happening is you're becoming more and more aware of your expandedness. I think that's the way I worded it in OMG. Anyone remember? I'm pretty sure that's how I say you're not actually expanding your space, because that's a false statement. What you're doing is you're becoming aware of your expandedness. So something's happening with your awareness. There's a big clue there for you in your pondering. So that word awareness has lots to do with that's a big support for you there. Awareness. So that was the question. How would you expand your space? Because that's what we want to do now. So we're talking about, Sarah knows, she's just put it up on the thing because she's the one who's doing all the work on this module, you become aware that you are already expanded. Cool. That's what I say in OMG. Thanks, Sarah. You become aware that you are already expanded. What did I say? You become aware of your expandedness. Is that even a word? If it is, if it isn't, it is now. Right? You are becoming aware of your expandedness. So in this module, what I'm hoping to do by the end of our next session is for you to have more of a practical means, right? Because now, remember, it's about knowing this, but now it's about understanding as well as what you know and bringing the two together and even making little steps or practical ways for you to, you know, and don't get me wrong, the practical ways are not just step 1, step 2, step 3. If you do the step 1, step 2, step 3 without any awareness, without any of your beingness, it doesn't work anyway. All right. But if I can just give you a path for yourself to follow, it becomes a practical means for you to expand your awareness, expand your space. Sorry. So, you know, that's the question I ask myself. That's why I'm asking this question to you, because it's like, well, I've noticed that, you know, my wealth of possibilities has expanded. You know, I don't measure it as wealth, as most people do. Well, you know, more car, more this, more. That's not the way I measure it. Because my wealth is not in things, right? It's in what's another word for the unthing. I'm just going to write that down, because actually that's a half of quote just came to me. My wealth is not in things. This is how things come to me. My wealth is not in things, but that's half done. So the rest of it didn't come. So I'll write it down and the rest will come later. So if it's not in things, what is it in? Yeah, it's not powerful enough. So anyway, yeah, so my wealth is not in things, and I'm pondering, I'm like, but I feel more freer to move. Like, you know, everything that I want to do, that is just the everyday things that I'm doing, and even some bigger things, like whether it's a bigger business, I feel free to move in that. I feel like there's a lot of space. So then that's the question is, well, how did my space expand? What have I done or not done that has allowed this space to expand where I feel more freer, which has nothing to do with the formed or the forming. It has nothing to do with how much money I have or don't have. But I feel freer. But don't get me wrong, I will say this, right? In the feel freer, it's usually been reflected in my bank accounts as well. It's usually like but again, it's not because of that. I just want to highlight that. But usually you notice, you know, like I was talking about before, when, you know, the money's just showing up when it needs to show up. Now the money's showing up in advance. Which way did I do it? This way before? I think I did. All right. Now the money's showing up in advance where it really does support me not to think about it. So then someone will go, well, it's easy for you not to think about it because the money's already there. Yes, that is true. But that happened here. There was a point where I was just like, began not to think about it. And then the story begins to reflect, to support me not to think about it. And then someone will look at that and go, well, it's easy for you because, you know, I never forget when I first started doing these programs, when I was back when it was called The Quest for Truth, when I was going through so much financial crisis and financial difficulties, I can't tell you the pain and the emotional and depression I was experiencing through that financial part. And I would get up on stage and I would be talking about the quest for truth. And I was really doing it for myself to really realize what I feel within me, because if I was putting it into words, I would experience it at a deeper level. And someone would always go, well, it's easy for you because you got money. And I just go, oh my God, they think I got money? Like, I must come across wealthy. They have no idea. That's got nothing to do with it. And I remember people used to say that to me. And I never just remember going, really? They think I'm like loaded? Like I'm not, you know, and I've got this story that's taking place right now. And that's when I really knew that I had the willingness and the ability to live this. Because to that point, I still didn't know I could live this. That's when I realized I was living this, because I realized that here's a story that's taking place in my life where I should be really going into fixing, improving, or changing and saving my financial whatever. But yet I'm following a feeling that doesn't even look like on the horizon that it's going to give me any financial break. But I'm still following the feeling. That's when I realized that, shit, like I didn't know people didn't have the ability to live this. I didn't know that. I just thought that's what people were doing. That's why they were successful. Until I actually started speaking about this, and until I saw that I had the ability, like, to even within the circumstances, to still follow the feeling. And even if the feeling seems like it's not even sorting out my financial circumstance or whatever, that's when I was like, oh shit, this is actually about living this, because that's where most people are falling. And that's why you hear me get up on stage and go, I know you know this stuff, but can you live it? Because to me, it was all about living it. So that's that. What I will do is open up for Q&As. I think Carolyn had a question before. And we'll go around and see what questions we have.
My question actually is one of the homework ponderings.
Yeah.
So I'll just
Which
wait.
one?
It's the one about how do you go from here to here? So that's basically it.
Well, you already know the answer to that, and I can tell you right now, it's you expand space. As you expand your space.
The point is, how do you expand your space?
Exactly. So that's the question.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So the question is, how do you expand space?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Thanks. Well, anyone else? Yes, Abe.
I'm listening to what you say, and I can feel and can relate to a lot of the things that you're talking about when you say it's not about the money, and you give other references where you're also saying it's not about that. Yet there's a part of me that is looking for an answer to how do I actually move in the space of nothingness forward. How, I have the old modality, how I've done things in the past. And, I kind of would like to apply or seeking for an answer to apply this to the space of nothingness. And I know that doesn't work. So, but still the question is there. Can you say anything about it or to it?
Hang on a sec. Do you want to get this? I've got a delivery. Thanks, Jamie. So what your question is, how do you move? Sorry, I just got a distraction.
So what happens is if my ego or my mind doesn't recognize that nothing is happening, then I'm going into fear and I get worried rather than trusting the process. Like last week, I had an example. I didn't have work for about a week before, and I started to get worried. Nothing was coming in, and then I'll go to the worries, and then only to find out a day later, the work came in and provided me whatever I needed, in this example of, it brought me up back to even level. And, I looked back then, and I say, well, the worry initially seemed to be totally unsubstantiated, because if I would have trusted, then,
how many times have you had that same scenario and that same conversation with yourself?
I don't know, many times, yeah.
Okay, so when you're done with having that conversation, you might notice a little bit of this starting to happen. You know, like, I mean, I relate to what you're saying because I was experiencing what you're experiencing, you know, and I mean, I just got to a point where I was just like, how many times do I have to remember this again? And just remember that it is working, it is taking care of itself. It's next time like what you want to do is really like discipline yourself to bring your attention to that awareness when the worry is invited. Before you actually invite the worry in, there's a point where you invite the worry in to your head, right? Before you actually let the worry in, bring your attention to that truth. It's a discipline to be able to bring your attention to the truth before you go. Most people will go, oh yes, look at that, I never needed to worry, it worked. And that's your pattern. You just keep doing that, and then it all works out, and you keep coming to that same point and go, oh well, I guess I didn't need to worry after all. And you've experienced this over and over and over and over and over and over again until you actually had enough of that.
Okay, got it.
I mean, you're enjoying that game. You love seeing the energy. Like there was a part of me that loved seeing it show up, you know, out of the darkness. Suddenly, this light shine up. You know, I'm just using a metaphor here, right? And I liked it to come that way because then it's almost like a miracle, and I was really into like miracles because then I could really see the feeling or the energy and know it's real. Well, there's going to be a point where you kind of know it's real and you're like done with that. What could I say? And you'd be like, you know, I'm done with it. And it doesn't change what you do necessarily. You might still, you know, it's not like you would like suddenly go, well, I don't need to do anything. I'll just sit down. The work's going to show up. That's not what I'm talking about, right? You'll still do what you feel to do, but the worrying about it or the thinking about it disappears, right? So I know that feeling where many times I actually enjoyed, you know, it's like going to watch a football game or watching the underdog win. You know, you're like, everyone said they couldn't win, and everyone said this, and everyone said, like the Roosters game, remember that? Like massive underdogs. And then you love seeing the miracle happen because then you're like, yeah, I really felt that. And what I'm saying is you're really into that, so you keep creating that. So there's a point where you're like, all right, I get it. Like, but you got to get to a point where you feel that and you're like, okay, I am that. And your game changes. But the experience you're having right now is exactly what you want because you love seeing the light come out of the darkness. I know that, Abe, because I used to be exactly that. I loved the miracles, right? And suddenly you realize that the miracles it doesn't have to be like that. It's every day. Every day is the miracle. Like your way of sensing and experiencing that miracle begins to change. So therefore you don't need to experience it in that way that you do. All right. Cool.
Amir,
yes, Jari.
it just kind of reminded me, I think it was on the WDF version 2, I think the last video. There was a girl that asked about creating money because she's always like, just does everything that was free and didn't have enough. And I remember you said something to the effect, just do what's in front of you to do at the moment.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be related to money. It just has to be just clearing the space, anything that's taking up room in your mind. So I think that really stood out to me.
Yeah.
Just clearing space, not just for the specific money situation, but just anything that might be cluttering.
Absolutely. It's spot on. And that's the very first thing that I get people to do, like to make space. And we're talking about how do you expand space now. I mean, the very first thing you want to do is you want to free yourself from the thing that is taking up space. Okay. So So that could be things that you have that have no serving, that don't serve you anymore. Or they could be thoughts that you have, you know, when you're thinking about things. So yeah, to clear space, when we talk about that in OMG, I mean, at the very basic level, you want to, you know, I still do this, you know, once a year or once every 18 months, I just go and throw out things that I don't need and still continue to clear space from things that I have in my life. But yes, that's, you know, I was speaking to Gaz this morning. I had breakfast with her, and, you know, I was talking about this with her, and, you know, that's what she would focus on is to make space. She would clear the things that are taking up space. So a lot of that could be emotion, it could be thoughts, it could be thoughts about things, and it could be things. So that's definitely something that everybody should always start with. And there's also a way to expand your space. Well, I want you to ponder on expanding it. Like, you will feel the expandedness of your space when you clear things from your space. But you will also, like for me, the reason I ask this question is because I feel that my wealth of possibilities has expanded, has become greater, has become more. My wealth of possibilities. So I've talked to you about wealth of possibilities. It's not necessarily things, right? I've already told you what that is, the bikini, right? But it's become bigger, right? It's just like what I'm playing with, the possibilities are becoming bigger. I'm moving more energy, if you like. It's changed. So then the question I asked myself over the last couple of mornings is, well, how did I expand my space? You know, it's not just clearing space. I mean, yeah, sure. The internal process is all about clearing space, whether it's clearing space of things or clearing space that's taking up from you thinking about things, right? Sure, right? But there's also in the external process when you actually begin to move energy, and well, you know, there is, to me, there is also something that you do that actually expands your space. And again, just to remember what expanded space is becoming aware of your expandedness. Okay. So yeah, that's a very good point, Jari. So I'm glad you pointed that out, because, you know, it's the basic, and it should never be forgotten that, you know, make space, and always, the reason I say just take the next step and just focus on the next step is because if you start thinking about, you might be having awareness that there's a step 100 ahead of you, but if you're thinking about the next 97 steps or 99 steps, as well as the next step, that's taking up space. So that's why I always say, just take and bring your attention to the next step. All right? And it allows you to be, that's why we're present. Because when you're present to what is, which means you're not present to all the other things that were or could be, right? Which allows you to feel present. And what do you feel when you feel present? Space. You know, these are stuff you're using every day. Cool, guys. Well, thanks for all questions. Any final comments or questions before I wrap it up? Yeah, Johnny. Yeah, Johnny.
I kind of hang back because we're on a good time schedule here, but I just want to throw this in there. I'm noticing about myself when you say it's not about the money. I'm relating back to, oh, it's only an illusion. And when I heard that for the first time, there was no space around the story. You know, it's only an illusion. How can you say that? You know, but with this, it's not about the money. The difference that I'm seeing is April and I were having a discussion, and she popped a word in that's really been present in my mind in the last couple of days. And that's inclusive. So it's not about the money, but it's inclusive. The money is it's included in what's happening. Yeah. You know, there's a big difference there. It's not turning away from, because the statement, it's not about the money. It's kind of like, you know, push it aside. No, it's inclusive.
That's right. Yeah. And it's very important that, you know, I kind of make sure that when I say it's not about the money, people are not misinterpreting that as don't make it about the money, therefore disregard, you know, or what's a word of inclusive? The opposite. No.
Excluded or limited.
Whatever, right? So the point is you're not in denial of the money. You're not, you know, turning a blind eye to it. No, you're relating to it. It's a reference point. You know, what is a word I used in my notes when it came to money? You're not trying to accumulate. You're not trying to make or accumulate money. You're moving it to where it's required to go. Was that what I was looking for? I forgot what I was looking for. Anyway. But yeah, look, it's a big one. It's a big one. And it took me a long time and so much heartache to realize what it actually meant. And I've had such a deeper understanding and deeper direct experience of that statement, that it's not about the money. You know, it started with my friend saying, you're making it about the money. That's where it started. And I just started this whole journey about, you know, like you're then free to do what you need to do because you feel to, not based on the money that you have or the money you don't have or the money you're going to get paid or you don't. Right? But that doesn't mean, it means you're free to then go, well, this is the money I'm going to get paid for this. This is the money I'm going to pay. You know what I mean? Like you're free to form the idea or I don't want to say the figure because it's never about the figure, right? But the idea of this is what this program I'm selling costs. This is how much money I'm going to give to this person that I want to contribute. I want to contribute to this person's life, for example. You know? And it's not about what's formed. It's not about, I'm gonna do some serious pondering on that because I'd like to give a much more relatable answers. And the way I find more relatable answers is by giving you more reference points. At this stage, I just I don't know, I just don't think about it. And look, I said that a lot, you know, those who were in Hawaii with me, you remember that's when that all kind of came in, where I started going, you know, people go, well, what about that? I'm like, I don't know, I just don't think about it. And, you know, I don't know, I just don't. But to me, that wasn't a good enough answer. I needed to be able to go, well, why don't I think about it? What does that look like? What is that? So people can relate to it. So I want to do the same thing with, you know, with money. When I'm saying, well, it's not about the money, what does that really mean? You know, and what does it look like when you're actually living and it's not about the money? You know, I think you guys can get what I'm saying to you, but I'd like I want some more landing points. I want some more references. So leave that with me and I'll go do my pondering. You go do your pondering and I'll see you in the next session. All right. And remember, I move energy.